Firefighters know that every second counts during the golden hour. That is why first responders trust AMCUS for simple, rugged, reliable rescue tools.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Backstep. This is Ronnie K in New York, and my little brother Tommy A is out there in New Mexico, not old Mexico, but New Mexico. And the guy in the upper right-hand corner with the glasses, that good-looking dude, we're going to get to him in a couple of minutes. So, Tommy, what is going on in New Mexico?
New Mexicans on their way to California to hopefully address some of the wildfire issues.
Yeah.
San Juan County sent 2 engines out. City of Farmington sent an engine out, and there are other resources from Albuquerque, Santa Fe, and a few other places across the state that are on their way out there to deal with some of the wildfire issues.
So I got a question. Because of where you are, do most or all the municipal structural departments do wildland and urban interface training, and they're kind of ready for all that?
Yeah, most of them have a wildland crew dedicated in either a Type 6 or a Type 3 engine that they go out quite a bit in the summertime. This was kind of a payback for the big fires that we had out here in New Mexico last year. Resources from California came in to assist with solving the problem. So it's the old one hand washes the other, and mutual aid goes across a long way.
Right. Interestingly enough, I asked my boss is a 4-star assistant chief, and I asked him. I met with him yesterday on a bunch of things. I said, "Do we send our IMT out to California?" And he smiled at me and he said, "They were a lot better at it than we are." He said, "Why would they bring us out there?" And that's the truth. They came to New York after 9/11, and they helped set up the command structure down at the World Trade Center, and our IMT, we didn't have one before that. We were born from 9/11, learning it from the wildland guys. And then he and I went into a discussion when the 19 guys got killed at the Yarnell Hill fire in Arizona.
Yeah,
the Fallen Firefighters Foundation, we sent our last teams to help. And the guy said the first day they were there, it was complete mayhem. And then as the Arizona last team, I can't think of his name, the kid. He's a chief. I think he's in Apache now. He's in Apache, Arizona as the chief, but he was the team leader. And as he put it, he goes, 6 guys came out of the forest in Utah or somewhere, and they walked in and took complete control of that whole thing in 10 minutes. He said, amazing how good they were.
Oh, they're good. They are good.
He said, wherever command was set up, they said, this isn't big enough. It's not good enough. We need a school. The schools were closed because of what happened. He says, we need a school. They went to a local public school. They laid out the rooms. They put people in where, he says, in 15 minutes, we were like organized and off to the races. So big time stuff. Before we go any further, we wish the brothers out in California the best, and let's get everybody home after the fires and all that stuff. I know they're affected too. Some of them live in that area where the fires are. They lost their homes, but they're still out there working. God bless them guys, man. I tell you, big time stuff. So here we are, and it's January. Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year, Tom.
I was going to congratulate you. I noticed that we had Christmas and Hanukkah on the same day. Did that cut down on the number of presents you received?
Well, I received, yes, but not Mrs. K. She gets double as usual. And we celebrated Christmas this year, just so you know, right? With a nice Christmas thing. Holidays were great this year. Family got together the whole bit. Everything was cool.
Good. So, you guys go out to see your daughter? Or?
No, she came to from PA for here. And we did it on the weekend because Christmas was right in the middle of the week. So we did it on Saturday and Sunday. They stayed over, and the in-laws came, the outlaws, everybody was there. So we had a good old time, a lot of laughs, a lot of good food, good drink, and all that stuff. So that's that. So you're all wondering who that gentleman is in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. I would like to introduce our guest up on the back step with us tonight here in January. That is Robert Beattie, an old friend of mine, and we'll talk about our escapades together. But Bob is a 36-year fire service veteran. He's currently the administrative deputy chief for the borough of North Plainfield in Somerset County, New Jersey. He started as a 16-year-old junior member of the Greenbrook Fire Company, which is next to North Plainfield, and eventually became a career guy, promoted up to lieutenant captain, and now deputy chief. He was the EMS and training guy for a while. He's kind of done it all. But Bob's he's an all hands-on guy, that's for sure. He worked on the side. He didn't have enough fire and enough activity, for himself, so he took another job doing fire as a fire inspector for Howell Township in Monmouth County, New Jersey. And he's been a fire instructor at Somerset County Academy and Huntington County Academy. He's a New Jersey fire investigator and currently assigned to the Somerset County Prosecutor's Office of Fire Investigation. I think one of his more proud moments was being a good union guy and being the second district vice president for what they call the PFANJ, the Professional Firefighters of New Jersey, kind of an arm of the IAFF. And I'll let Rob talk about that a little bit. Also served on every level, all locally, all positions, and just an all-around good union guy and a reasonable guy to deal with, as I've heard from his chief. He's completed peer support training, and he's part of the peer support team for New Jersey. And one of I think his crowning achievements, Rob took on the mantra of doing fundraising for children's cancer from an outfit called St. Baldrick's, and I was talking about it recently, Rob. A couple of the guys at work never heard of it, and I told them the backstory and how it came about. St. Baldrick's, it's a takeoff on St. Patrick's Day, and it's a couple of guys got loaded up on St. Patty's, and they all put $100 on the bar, and they dared each other to shave their heads. And it started in a bar on Wall Street in Manhattan, right, Rob?
Yeah, a couple of reinsurance executives based in New York, based in Manhattan. One challenged the others, said, "We've done well for ourselves. What are we going to do for others?" And they started brainstorming. And one gentleman, Enda McDonald, had just had this beautiful head of Irish hair, and the challenge was laid out, and that's really truly where it started from. And their original goal was $17,000 on March 17th, and they already had this St. Patrick's Day celebration that they did every year, so they said, "We'll do it then." And I think that first year they raised over $25,000 that first year, and it's been every year since.
Yeah. So to Rob's credit, he chairs an annual event at North Plainfield Fire, and people basically get sponsors to shave their head. I used to get sponsors even with this haircut now. The people that I got the money from, I said, okay, I'll take the sides off. It all goes, And then one year, if you remember, Rob, they auctioned off my mustache. Remember that? Yeah. That's $600 for the mustache, Tom. I'm thinking yours. You'd have to get at least $1,000 or $2 to take that.
I did it one year.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, Durango Fire Department sponsored it at one of the local taverns. And since I keep my hair short anyway, it wasn't that much of a challenge. So right. I sold the mustache.
You did?
Oh, yeah.
Outstanding.
Yeah, so Ron was our MC. We recruited Ron to MC our event a couple of times, like shortly after we started. And the mustache was Ron's idea, and he sold it himself. And
there was one of my vendors was there from Approved Fire Protection.
Yes, yeah.
His name was Scott. He was my salesman, and he says, "Hey, you shaved your head. What about the mustache?" I says, "No, the mustache don't go." So he took out $100 bill and he started the frenzy with $100 bill, and everybody starts yelling, "How much we got?" I says, "I want at least 600." They got it. 600, boom, it came. I walked out of there. I was absolutely Uncle Fester to the nines. I didn't have the only hair I had was on my chest. They shaved everything. It was great. So we raised a lot of money. But to Rob, I got to give you a little bit of an accolade, and I know you don't like it, but we started in 2004, so it's been 20 years. It's hard to believe. But Rob and his efforts with his people have raised over $1 million for this cause. So, congratulations on that, buddy. Yeah, a little round of applause, a little golf clap there. And what else can we tell you about Rob Beattie? He became a staple at the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial Weekend as a team leader, working for Tommy when Tommy was the operations chief. Been back many times for that, and basically continues to contribute to the fire service in any way he can. And I see down on the bottom here, Robbie, that the exempt hall in the museum is kind of still open. We still got the Silver Ghost on display there.
Yeah, the silver hose carriage. Yep, it's still there. Yeah, It's
Aurnhammer. If you saw that, okay, you would break in the middle of the night, hook it up to your Volkswagen, and tow it back to New Mexico. Man, she is beautiful. She is beautiful. Completely on the sterling silver. She's gorgeous.
And that rig.
When I saw the Relief Association mentioned, I didn't have the pleasure of doing my 7 years. I did 4 in Jersey. So I don't get to go to Booton, which was apparently the last stop for at least 5 generations of Aurnhammers.
Did your ancestors go to Booton?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Gotcha. I didn't know that.
They had Springfield had kind of a open back rescue unit that the volunteers would climb on and go to a fire when they had one. And they lovingly referred to that thing as the Booton Express. Because all the volleys that were on the back were definitely over 60 years old.
The Booton Express. I was up there once. And the time I stopped, the place is so impressive. It's beautiful. It's clean. They have their own museum at the old fire. For the folks watching, Booton, New Jersey, there's somebody left 65 acres, beautiful acres of property, and there was a retired fireman's home up there, and that again, yes, you kind of go to live out your life there. But what a beautiful place! And the reason why I stopped there is my wife threatened me. It happens only once a week, but she said to me, if you don't get rid of all of these navy blue T-shirts with the Maltese on them from all over the world, you're going to come home and find a big pile of smoldering blue material in the backyard one day. So I gathered up. It was time to clean out, and I had a hefty bag full of stuff. Most of them I never even wore. You get shirts, you just don't even. So I packed them up, and I was on my way. I think I was going to Emmitsburg for a weekend. It might have been New Jersey weekend. And I left early, and I shot up to Booton. I went up to North Jersey, got a quick tour of the place, dropped off the bag with the director there, and kept going. But it's a wonderful, beautiful place. So, Rob, welcome to the Backstep. We're glad to have you. Rob and I, we took a few doors together in North Plainfield. We dragged a couple of lines, and we threw a couple of ladders together. I joined in '97. I became a callman in October '97. So were you a callman before that?
Yeah, I joined the call force there in September of '91.
Okay. Oh, you were already there 6 years. Okay. So obviously I'm a bit older than Rob by a couple of minutes, and so I was the chief at Merck when I became a callman in North Plainfield, and I met Rob at the firehouse, and we ran together for 11 years. I did it for 11 years before I took the job out in Eastern Connecticut, but. Always, Robbie, always saw that great potential and laser focused. That's what I noted about you. You were laser focused on everything. I think I might have failed to say Rob's dad is a retired lieutenant out of North Plainfield as well. So followed his father's footsteps. And in typical Beatty fashion, Robbie Jr. is a firefighter now, a volunteer, and he's looking to get on a paid job someplace. So you're passing down the torch. So
yeah.
Proud.
Yeah, my dad and I, we missed each other by about 10 years in North Plainfield. I joined as a junior member in Greenbrook in '88, and he retired out of North Plainfield in '89. And then I went over to, in '91, I went to the call force North Plainfield, and then I got hired full time in March of '99. So, yeah, I mean, it was a great experience, true combination fire department. When I joined the call force in '91, it was literally 50-50, half on the career job working, the 4 platoons, and then half, the call force was robust. And it was definitely it's what you had to do if you wanted to, move up to the paid force. And I think I appreciate the lasered focus. I definitely took it seriously and had my goals and just worked towards those. So
yeah, and they came to fruition for you too. So and I think when you look at guys like yourself and Tommy and even myself, I like to talk about me, but I had my goals as well. But what I tell people when I teach my leadership stuff is you have to go with the goals of the department and the overall mission. And you'll realize your own goals if you do that. that it'll come with the territory, as you know. If you go in there and you start elbowing, okay, when you start pulling guys off the ladder and get up ahead of them, you could fall off that ladder just as easily, and then you're laying flat on your back, or worse, flat on your air tank. That's going to leave a mark, Yep, Tom.
After reading your bio, Rob, I was kind of reminded of a study I wanted to do and never finished when I was going through executive fire officer. And I wanted to look at some of the traits of successful fire chiefs, or what I considered to be successful, either through mentoring or just knowing a guy. But I think the majority of them had strong union backgrounds. And that's where they got their initial leadership training, was dealing with the locals. And I can pretty much say the majority of the folks that I would consider successful came up through that system.
So it's interesting you say that, and I do agree with you. And that's been my experience, is when if you have aspirations, like I had aspirations of having a positive impact on the department as a whole, and to Ron's point, if your goals align with the direction of the department and you work towards improving the department in that direction, and your goals are in line with that, that all kind of plays out. In a department like ours, where there's 4 platoons, 4 officers, and there's not a lot of promotion, there's not a lot of turnover in those ranks. So as I started paying attention to the leadership discussions and learning the leadership skills and honing those traits, I found myself looking for opportunities, not creating them for myself, but looking for opportunities to practice those skills, do those things, find out what my leadership style was going to be, what worked, what didn't work. And being active in my union, in our union and our local, provided those opportunities. You step up to lead a committee, to chair a board, and then get elected to office. These are all opportunities to lead and to share, and develop those skills.
So, Robbie, I got a question. So, other than your own, learning style and trying to absorb stuff, does the union itself, does the IAFF nationally or locally actually have leadership classes and stuff like that to help you be successful as a union leader, which obviously helped you be successful as a fire service leader? Do they actually do formal training?
They absolutely do. So there's a few cadres of instructors within the International Association of Firefighters. There's hazmat, there's fireground survival, there's peer fitness, fit to thrive is what they call it now, fitness trainers. And then there's the partners education program, PEP, and PEP instruction, and the PEP cadre. It's union administration training, essentially, which the common thread in all those modules and all those training sessions is leadership. It discusses identifying the need to address something, developing a strategy and a plan, recruiting people to help you move that way, leveraging resources, either internal, external to the local, and then working towards a successful achievement. So I've had the opportunity to attend those training sessions. There's a large conference every year called ALTS, Affiliate Leadership Training Seminars. I've attended that as a student. A couple of years ago, I was asked to participate as a facilitator, as an instructor. Great. So I've taken that training, and now I'm involved with developing other new and existing union officers, and it's a fantastic opportunity. It's really not the instruction like I was used to as a fire instructor, like at the fire academy. It's more facilitating. So
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because we the FDNY has just embarked. We opened up on Monday actually. There's been a series of things that happened over the last few years. There was a couple of lawsuits. There was some studies. A combination of all of it. At the end of the day, they decided that we need to do a leadership development program for every supervisor in the job, civilian, uniform, EMS, fire prevention, you name it. So we had to get a cadre of facilitators, and we interviewed. I was on that committee. We interviewed 64 people from within, from all bureaus and all walks of life in the fire department, and then selected 12 primaries and 6 alternates. And they just kicked it off on Monday. Took us the curriculum and the planning took 2 years. I had no intention on being part of that thing. And my boss tapped me on the shoulder 2 years ago and said, "Hey, Ron, I can use a hand with this little project I'm working on." Yes, sir. I'm right there. So I ended up in the middle of it. But the one of the most difficult things that we had to do, because probably 3/4 of our facilitators are instructors of some sort, was to teach them how not to be instructors and how to facilitate the discussion. Because this particular 8-hour day is all about the people sitting in the chairs working out these problems, and we have scenarios, and it's about leadership and about a little bit about diversity and how firehouse life has changed in New York City and all of that. So a little cultural stuff but if we all decide, if you get the leadership stuff right, everything else falls into place. If you become a good leader, you got all the concepts down, you know how to talk to people, you know how to deal with people, all the other stuff falls in place. But trying to get them, and we did 3 weeks of pilot classes. Before we did the pilot classes, the people who developed the thing, and it was all in-house, we sat as students with them. And the hardest thing was to get them to facilitate rather than to teach.
And that is, that was a kind of a heavy lift for me to try to get my head around that.
Yep.
and do exactly that. But it's really well, at least what worked for me was that active listening model, like Covey speaks about, that most people are listening with, and all they're thinking about is their response.
They're going to say, right.
You're not hearing what you're saying or processing it. All they're doing is what they want to say, like what I want to say next.
Right.
And once I was able to kind of identify that and realize that it's not what I have to say, I want to listen to what the person sitting in the class has to say. That kind of, was a shift of gears for me. Yeah. We just came back from ALTS this year. It was in New Orleans, and we did one of the workshops I was in, one of the modules I was in was rights and responsibilities with discipline, like how as a union officer, how you can help a member that's facing discipline. And there was one of the guys attending the class, sitting in the class as a student, like worked as a paralegal before his fire department career. So that guy was the resource in the class that you can't script it. You can't plan it. You don't even know that that's going to happen. And if you're not, as a facilitator, if you're not listening, you miss it. And that you turn that one off and you lose all that content. It was just
no doubt about it. We got a small group of people we have to train, Rob. We got to put 3,800 supervisors through the program, 24 at a time. So this is a 6 to 9 month project. We're in for the long haul. But you're right. It's that art of active listening is key. And I heard you talk about Covey, about being a listener. His 7 Habits book. Yep. But one is seek first to understand and to be understood, right? So it all fits in. And I learned that when I was at Merck, they covied us. All the bosses got covied. We went for a whole week of covied, 40-hour week of covey training. It was great.
And sharpen the saw.
Sharpen the saw. Right. So I still use a Franklin Covey planner. I still have the big black book with the zipper in them. My dates are in there, but I don't miss any meetings with that. So that's okay. I call it an old guy iPad. It's an old guy iPad.
Perfect.
We're good. I wanted to shift gears here a little bit. Tom, something on that same subject, because I want to shift gears.
I just real quick, and I'm always curious. I'm the IAFF local here in Farmington still carries me as an honorary, which I always is very near and dear to my heart. But my brother is on the job in Jersey, and he's in a different union.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious as to the number of IAFF locals compared to the number of FMBA locals. Who's got the juice?
Well, so it fluctuates. If you look at it on an average, it's about half. Like, we're split. I think there's roughly 6,000 career firefighters in the state of New Jersey, and each association respectively has about half the membership at a given time. It goes up and down. So what we're talking about is the Professional Firefighters Association of New Jersey, which, like Ron said, is like an arm of the IFF, but what we are is the affiliated state association of the International Association of Firefighters.
Gotcha.
And then you have the Firemen's Mutual Benevolent Association, which is the FMBA. The FMBA is not affiliated with the larger union, like the International Union, but they do their work in New Jersey. There's a them and us aspect to it. I am of the opinion that at this point, at this stage in our history, we should be one. We work on the same issues, we work on the same topics, and I believe if you look at it as in a if you're in a relationship, you definitely have the things that you disagree with, fundamentally, morally, whatever. But you also have some core values that you do agree with, and that you share some common ground. So if we can't all be one state association in New Jersey, we should be working on that common ground and working together to achieve what's best for all firefighters in New Jersey. And we are doing that. I think that happens more often than not at this point with our current leadership in both associations.
That's good. That's a good thing.
Looking at it through a historic lens, I think that there was a time that just wasn't feasible. It just wasn't possible. Not all because of the personalities of the leadership, but because of what the membership was demanding of leadership and the relationship between the two. And I think that's shifted, in my opinion, I think that's shifted a little bit. I think the membership of both associations see more value in working together than opposing one another.
One of the fundamental problems with it, Rob, that I've always seen, I was on the executive board of the Career Fire Chiefs in New Jersey for 11 or 12 years, is that the people in Trenton, or the lawmakers, they look at that and they say, these guys can't even get themselves on the same page.
Right.
And they're going to come to us and ask us for things. So that's to us, to the chiefs. We try to make, back then we were trying to make peace. We're going back into the through late 90s through 9/11 and then into the new OOs. So that time. And we invited the both presidents to a chiefs meeting to have a discussion with the fire chiefs and both. And the first question back then, both guys asked is, what time do you want me? And 10 o'clock. Well, when is Mike? I'm just making up names. I don't remember names. And when is Mike going to be? No, you guys are going to be at the same time. No, I'll come at 10. You have him come at 12. They didn't want to be in the same room. It was that bad. And we kept telling both of them individually, this is bad for the fire service. It's bad for New Jersey. It's bad for the fire service because you guys are so splintered. You're going to go to Trenton. They're going to say, well, you're only representing half of the guy. What's the other half? What do they want? So it's not good, really not good for the political arena. That's for sure.
No. And again, I think the membership is where it's at, right? And there was a time when the membership would demand that no, we're not going to cross that line. And I think that's evolving. I'm not going to say shifting, changing, improving, not improving. I think it's evolving.
Cool.
We've had a lot of success in New Jersey over the last 7 years with legislation and getting things passed, and for the betterment of firefighters in New Jersey. And with exception of one initiative, it affects all firefighters in New Jersey: career, volunteer, private, not affiliated. it's for the betterment of firefighters and for the fire service, and that's what it's all about. And the one piece that I'm talking about that doesn't cover, the whole thing is the preventive cancer screenings, which right now is only the career firefighters, and that comes down to how it's paid for, and it's through the health insurance. So eventually, I believe that the Relief Association Tom was talking about earlier, I believe they're looking for some legislation to try to get that same preventative cancer screenings out for volunteers. And it really just comes down, with us, it's all about firefighters and safety, and cancer is bad, and early detection and early treatment interventions are key. Our leadership in Trenton, our decision makers and our lawmakers, they may be fundamentally on board with it, but somebody has to pay for it. And that's where that hurdle comes from, is where's the money come from. But listen, it's a huge victory. We're, I believe, the first in the country to have that preventative screening on the books, and some models that, model legislation that's going to impact firefighters everywhere.
Yeah, and for a long time to come. Yeah, it'll be a long lasting thing, because it was never on our radar. I mean, for my generation, mine and Tommy's, but now it's part and parcel to what we should be talking about and doing, which we are, and we're taking action, So I agree.
And as it goes forward, listen, you're gonna hear stories of members that attend this screening and they find something early and hidden, and it changes their lives. Is it going to matter if it was the PFA&J or the FMBA that pushed legislation across the finish line to that member and that member's family? No. It shouldn't. There's a point of personal pride in that. Getting a piece like that done in New Jersey is huge, right? And the FMBA has their victories to their credit. The PFA&J has their victories to their credit. When we're looking at federal legislation, when we're looking at SAFER, we're looking at AFG, we're looking at responding to the interface, right? The wildfire urban interface. When we're looking at legislation that's going to protect firefighters across the country, that happens in DC. That happens with the International Association of Firefighters. The FMBA and the PFA&J's influence in our caucus that we send to Washington as representatives from the Garden State, absolutely. Like the PFA&J, FMBA, those members' influence with those legislators, absolutely instrumental. But it doesn't happen federally without all of the states. And the only way you're going to get all the states is with the IAFF. So it takes all of us, and it takes solid leadership. It takes vision and forecasting and strategy and leverage and all of those things. And I'm communicating this to you because hopefully somebody's watching this broadcast, and they can look at their volunteer firehouse and their fire company. They can look at their local, whether it's a 12-man local, a 100-man local, or a 500-man local, and realize that those same strategies, those same leadership tactics work. They work on you can plug it into the scenario and make positive change. And it's unlimited. The scale is unlimited. And again, to Covey's point, right, is your area of influence. And my area of influence was a 20-man local in North Plainfield in Somerset County, New Jersey, and like-minded people, open-minded. I got some buy-in. We made some changes. I was able to put myself in a position to be elected to a district position in the state association. Like-minded people, laterally, developed some really strong local leaders that are now, one was elected to take my place when I didn't run. That guy's on the primary executive board. He's the second vice president for the entire state association. These are things that, I'm very, very proud of, and only because they work. These things they work, and it just takes.
And you know what? It takes a concerted effort, and like you said, it takes leadership. There's no doubt that the guys at the top of whatever organizations have to put their heads together. So you have to look at the greater good. What's good for the greater good? So with that, I want to shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about training. Now, for me, my mantra was always that a strong training program in a fire department, it directly affects the safety program. If you got a good training program, three things for me make a strong fire department: good training program, a good fire prevention program, strong fire marshal's office, if you will, okay, and a good set of SOPs and all that other stuff. Operating systems. But for me, your safety program hinges on how good the training program is. Because if our people are getting the right training at the right levels, they're following SOPs, they're going to have a safer fireground. Okay, it's just statistically it'll work better. So let's talk about training and fundamentals of training and like what you do in North Plainfield and maybe what suggestions to a similar sized department, because you basically a small fire department operation. I was in it for almost my whole career before I went back to the city. So tell us a little bit about that, Rob.
Yeah. So in North Plainfield, training, we do training on an in-service basis. So we're never out of service we're really never out of service unless we're on an incident, which is being in service. So our training was very organic. It was very realistic. We always based it on who we had on hand, and it was segmented down into the feasible tasks that we could perform without literally overcommitting ourselves or taking us out of service. So it was developed from platoon to platoon. The platoon officers were given and are given a wide berth, if you will, to tailor the training program to fit their style and their personnel. We had absolutely our SOGs that give us breaks the year down in quarters, gives us the mandatory subjects we have to hit each quarter, the optional or preferred subjects on top of it for each quarter, and then the number of hours you were looking to achieve. When I started and you remember as a callman, we worked 10s and 14s, so we'd work 2 10-hour day shifts, 2 off, 2 14-hour night shifts. And the officers would incorporate an hour of training in per shift. So usually we did our hands-on stuff during those 2 day shifts. We do some of our classroom or book work on those night shifts. When we transitioned to 24/72 schedule, we tried to incorporate that. I always tried to incorporate that training time into the afternoon. You get your good work done, your maintenance, your inspections, whatever done during the morning. You get your lunch, you get a good hands-on drill in the early afternoon, and then you break, and then you adapt from there. As an officer, I always try to tie my inspection activity into the training activity for the afternoon. Just try to tie that together. Everything in our place is a training opportunity. We do our fire code inspections at the platoon level. We do them on an in-service basis. So we're out doing an inspection while we're looking for, sprinkler risers, smoke detectors, and, Knox boxes and things like that. It's an opportunity to talk about building construction. Where's the closest hydrant? What's our pre-plan? What are we going to do if, and run those scenarios. And then in the afternoon, we're going to practice tying that hydrant, stretching that line, shutting down that riser. Even if it's a simulation, it keeps the crew engaged and energized. And my saying has been, and I don't think it's original, I don't remember where I picked it up, but the first time you have to do it shouldn't be the first time you've ever done it. And the only time you're going to do it before you have to is in training. Right. Practice makes perfect.
It's funny you talk about that you take every opportunity. We ran an officers academy in Connecticut when I was in Connecticut for new appointed officers, lieutenants and captains. And within the first year, the Fire Chiefs Association it was a week-long course. and it wasn't firefighter, it wasn't fire officer 1, 2, 3. They got that at the academy. This was real world stuff. We talked a lot about leadership, human behavior, the firehouse, leadership in different aspects. That we gave them at least one class on leadership on the fireground to keep them interested, because there were pictures of flames and stuff, that kind of stuff, But it turned out great, and we ran it for years. And I think they're still doing it. It's usually every January, and at one of those weeks, there were five newly appointed officers from a career department, and they asked me to stay after class at 5:00 one night. So I did. And they said, listen, our chief and our deputy, the department was a little bit bigger than yours. I think they had 3 stations and maybe had, 18, 20 on a shift kind of a thing. So it was kind of like almost like 3 times what you had. But the deputy and the chief, they don't let us do any, listen to this. They don't let us do any training. We're not allowed to train, and we're not allowed to work out or use the gym. Okay, because those 2 activities can cause someone to get hurt and could cause someone to have to work overtime to cover that guy who got hurt. Okay, it was the most asinine thing I've ever heard. And they knew that I knew who their bosses were, but we told them the first day, the whole class, we would do between 25 and 35 guys for the week. We'd say, listen, you guys are coming here in uniform. We see your shoulder patches. We know where you work. We're all from the Chiefs Association. We know who your bosses are, but we give you a solemn promise. What is said in this room stays in this room, and they took that to heart. I said to them again, I said, I know who your boss is. I know who your chief and your deputy and everything. I said, give me what's the reasons? And they told me, and I said, okay. So what you have to do now, because they're not going to be with you 3:00 in the morning crawling down the hallway. I said, you have to take advantage of what you do normally on a regular basis. So what do? You go on runs. Every run's a training opportunity.
Yeah.
Everyone. You go to a smoke call on a taxpayer, stretch a dry line to the fire department connection for the sprinkler system, throw a 24-foot ladder up. Just go through the motions. Just keep going through the motions, because you're going to get stale. And then you're going to get bit in the ass one night, when they're home sleeping cozy in bed. So make every run a training evolution. Go in, take a tour, go to the riser room. So yeah, making everything, whatever you can get your hands on to make a training out of it, make it a training.
Ron, it's always been my contention that the 2 things that they may not seem important at the time, but really what kind of brings everything to fruition is to make sure that you're pre-planning your district. Number one, if you're out doing something, again, take that opportunity to look around and see what you got. And the other one is, we tend to specialize sometimes, but we can't lose sight of the fundamentals is what's going to get us through, especially with fire suppression operations. So stick to the basics. It may seem a little repetitive, but it's going to create that muscle memory that you're going to have there. So take it for what it's worth. My thoughts, pre-planning and basic training.
Yeah, and the fundamentals, like everything is based on the fundamentals. And the training is like, sometimes I felt like, depending on the day, you use like a little bit of a Jedi mind trick. Like you tell them one thing when you really mean it's going to be something else, right? You say, okay, we're going to train this afternoon, and you get the eye rolls and it's this, that, and the other thing. But training, you don't tell them it's training. Say we're going to practice a new hose load, and next thing you know, it's 2 hours of stretching lines. It's training, and then you give it to them to teach you. Like, listen, in where we are, we hire firefighters who are already firefighters. So if they don't come up through our volunteer department as callmen, which right now we're not hiring anybody from our call force. We don't have those members. So we're hiring firefighters that are coming from other departments, from other volunteer fire departments, and give them the opportunity to teach us, with the caveat of we're not switching everything to your way. We want to hear what your way is and see if there's a way to incorporate it. But just because you're having training doesn't mean the guy with the with the bugles on the collar is the only person who can teach or the only person who can instruct. There's subject matter experts on your crew that are informal leaders in your job that bring something to the table. And, you have to have, as an officer, in my opinion, you got to have the courage and the self-confidence to let go of those reins. Absolutely. And let the crew teach you.
I couldn't agree with you more, Robbie. The reason why I was smiling when you were talking about, kind of like fibbing around saying it's not really training, and then we had Joe Jordan and Frank Lieb on the program about 2 years ago. It's got to be 2 years already, Tom.
Yeah.
We were talking about how to incorporate fire prevention type work into the line, and Joe was the chief of fire prevention. Frank was the chief of training. It was we had a great show that night. But what Frank said is, he says, when I was a company officer, we just didn't tell them it was fire prevention work. We said, we're going to go out and walk around the building. So we go out and walk around the building. Oh, there's a violation. Go get the book. He said, we were doing inspections. They didn't know it. He said, we don't want to tell them it's fire prevention.
Yeah.
God forbid they should know. He said, so, and then Joe Jordan kind of alluded to the fact that it's gotten much, much better over the years, particularly in New York City we're talking about. He said, where, you were checking the boxes, back in the day. He said, but now, he says, as a field chief, more and more, he would kind of, making his rounds, he'd catch up with the companies. They go in service, they go on the end and say, we're doing inspection. And he'd catch up with them and say, hey, what are you doing? And the captain is out of the cab with the guys walking through the building. Years ago, the officer sat in the cab and handed the clipboard to the guys and said, go around, walk around, come out and out. But we're engaged now, so that's the good news. But we don't. He said we don't even tell them that's inspections. We say, just go get familiar with the building in case you get a job. And if you see a violation, take note of it. So, but sometimes you got to kind of do that. We shouldn't have to, but sometimes it's just the way it is. But Tommy, you hit it on the head, man. That fundamentals. I remember we did a ton of drilling when I was at Merck. Okay, we had 8 hours a week, because we had different shifts. So we did like 4 hours on a Monday and 4 hours on a Thursday to catch the different shift guys and all that stuff working in the factory, and a lot of fundamentals. Get the engine out, wrap a hydrant. We use 5-inch supply line. Wrap the hydrant with the 5. Go down a couple of feet, unwrap it, hook it up. All of that stuff. Throwing ladders, stretching ladders. So we get a smoke condition in my high rise. No, I'm sorry. It was a drill with a smoke condition. No, it wasn't a real fire. It was a drill. And I'm critiquing. I'm not taking command. I got a deputy who's doing it. I'm going to stand there and write everything down. And for some reason, it took 18 minutes to put a dry line from the pumper to the Siamese connection to feed the combination sprinkler standpipe system. 18 minutes. Okay, so we had that discussion, and that's fundamentals, right? It is. Yeah. And then after that, we practiced more. And then we had a fire in the top floor, in the penthouse of the building, which was the machine room. We had a fire 7:30 in the morning. Rahway came in, backed us up. It went like clockwork. But that's the beauty of doing it over, and all that muscle memory you're talking about, man. Doing that over and over and over again. So you're almost not even thinking about it.
Yeah, it's there's just nothing better than just getting back to your basic skills. Especially the further removed you are from doing it, it just feels it's energizing to just get back at it.
And then once in a while, like the fire service as a whole, comes up, like you'll see it like in fire engineering or firehouse or FDIC. The theme of this year is back to basics. Like every 10 years, we go back to basics, but which is good because somebody thought of like, hey, we haven't talked about basics in a while. Let's start with that theme. But the chiefs and the deputies and the leaders in the fire service should be making sure, that's their job, is to make sure that people can fundamentally do the things they need to do and have the skills and the KSAs, knowledge, skills, and abilities to pull it off. I think it's an ongoing thing.
It's funny how I look back on some of the stuff, and we were doing blue card training. And a lot of the blue card stuff was based on a study that a guy named Klein did on recognition prime decision making. And Klein was doing a study for the military as to how were these generals making decisions and knew what to do. Well, it's because they've been doing it for 20 years. Now, we know we don't have the number of fires that we've had in the past, so Blue Card was based on the repetitive media that you went through of establishing command and what steps you're going to take to mitigate the problem, and doing it over and over and over. And what they found out is you can recreate that actual experience by doing the repetitive training. So now you pull up to a fire, you got one room going, you know what's going to solve that problem. You're going to do a little vent, you're going to pull an 1 3/4 line, squirt some water. Hopefully the fire is going to go out. And base all your decisions on stuff you've done. Now, the scary part is when it happens and you haven't done anything. I wouldn't expect, a little podunk volunteer fire department here in New Mexico to roll up on a big box store that's got a pretty good fire in it and have some success with that. But that muscle memory, the recognition to make sure you got all that stuff plugged into your hard drive in your head to come back on it when you have a problem.
Yeah. Do you guys remember the movie The Dirty Dozen?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So they
Exactly.
they had the 12 guys that were all criminals. They were locked in the brig in the army, but they had to go into the German headquarters and take it out. So they got the worst guys that they had. Remember, Telly Savalas was in there. Jim Brown, the football player, became an actor. Right. Yep. And what did they do to drill so they knew what to do when they got behind enemy lines? They sat there night after night for 3 hours, and they put it in a poem. Take out the lights so we don't have to fight. Step 2, go to the back so we don't have to sack. And they did it over and over and over, and it was automatic. By the time they got to Germany, they drilled. By the time they all knew the plan, the rhymes, the poem, the whole bit, and they all got it done. So it's the same. A couple of years ago, somebody coined it like it being in the gym. It's sets and reps. To give you that muscle memory. So I want to swing back around. We were talking about a little bit about fire prevention, Rob. I know you were the fire prevention officer in North Plainfield, and you worked in Howell Township doing fire prevention work. I'd like to just chat a little bit about, how firefighter safety, going to fires or fire, fire duty and fire prevention is all interlocked. We're making some progress in the city, not a lot lately, but some. We're trying to, and that's another thing, about, listen, fire prevention saves firefighters' lives. That's on my email from work, because it does. It does. So how do we get the guys motivated, and how do we tie it all in? What do you do in North Plainfield to tie that in?
Well, I wish I could tell you that I have 100% success rate in tying that all in North Plainfield, right? But nobody's perfect, and nothing really is.
Of course not.
I just try to be consistent with my messaging, Ron, and it's exactly that. You're going out to do your fire inspections, and there's a lot to look at. These are our priorities: the systems, the services, and your way in and their way out, and everything kind of builds off of that. Making sure that our inspectors and the members that are accompanying them on the inspections understand what systems are there and what they're for. That not all sprinklers, not all standpipes, not all fire alarm systems are the same. And, a big part of what we do is anticipate, right? Is developing that ability to anticipate what's next. The better we understand our systems, the better we can anticipate, even on dispatch, what we're going to. Are we going to a water flow? Are we going to a fire alarm activation? Are we going to a pull station? How much information is coming in? How well, to Tom's point, how well do you know your district? How well do you know what's in your district and what's where in your district? So the tying it all in is, I found the most success, at least in North Plainfield, is when we have those incidents, tying the incident was preventable if the occupant had been more compliant with the fire code, more compliant with maintenance of their systems, things wouldn't have happened. False alarms, everybody bemoans the frequent alarm system activation. Hey, you know what? You're right. If we had paid more attention to when was the last time that alarm system was inspected? Did we look at the report and see if any deficiencies were identified that we never asked them to fix? A malfunctioning fire alarm system is malfunctioning for a reason. It should get caught on a good inspection or testing. It's up to us to interpret that report. A lot of the occupancies, and it's no different in the city or any other jurisdiction, a lot of the occupancies are not going to take corrective measures on a fire inspection report if we don't tell them they have to. We say, hey, you got to get your system tested and send us the report. We get the report, date's good, boom, it goes in the file. And we miss that, the sensitivity on the smoke detectors weren't where they're supposed to be. It's up to us to catch those things.
I agree. And one of the things that we talk about a lot is, we talk about water, right? We talk about water a lot, where I am. And we tell the officers and the firefighters, and when I get a chance to get my hands on them, if you don't go into that building when you're doing your rounds, we have a program in the city. The local companies do something called BISP, Building Inspection Safety Program. So you go out, they got to do BISP every day in their district. So if it behooves you to go to that riser room to make sure the valves, you guys know what an OSMI valve looks like. Make sure the valves are open. You get this hit 3 o'clock in the morning in this factory, you want the sprinklers to go off. You want water on the fire. Or if you're going into standpipe operations, you want to turn that 2.5 inch valve and get water out. It behooves you to look at this stuff because that's your lifeline. Yeah. That's your lifeline, and when you're looking at it under good, calm conditions and it looks screwy, call us and we'll get it fixed. We'll go out there and we'll do our thing. But we're in this together. We're trying to make that thing we're all in this together. And if everything's working properly, you're going to have an easier time in that building, and everybody gets to go home afterwards. That kind of thing.
Yeah, and to the firefighter safety aspect of it, I've had a lot of success in communicating that to our stakeholders in the community, the people that are occupying our buildings. And I tell them, I have no problem saying to them, listen, these codes are all about safety, your safety and firefighter safety. And the safest fire for us is either the one that never happens or the one that's kept in check by an operating suppression system, or the one we find out about early enough to keep small fire small, and just trying to communicate. Because listen, the reality is we go out and our priority is the fire prevention code, firefighter safety, occupant safety. And we're going to these, in a lot of cases, places, a restaurant, a healthcare facility that have 12 different things, 12 different agencies they need compliance with. And so now it's like, I'll put my union hat on and we're trying to fight for that piece of the budget, that piece of the pie. Well, in the fire prevention world, I'm fighting for their attention, that piece of the pie of their attention and their priority. They only have so much money to spend on all of the things they need to comply with. And listen, maintenance of required fire protection systems isn't cheap or inexpensive. So they're making the investment to get me that report. I'm compelled to read that report and advocate for them. If that report's not saying what they're paying for, I have no problem calling the pizza place up and say, hey, you paid for this kitchen suppression system report. It cost you $400 or $500, and they didn't submit a complete report. That's what you paid them for,
right?
And making that, closing that loop. And I think that's exhausting. No pun intended to the whole system, but it's exhausting. It's exhausting.
But I think that's part and parcel to what we're supposed to be doing. It's public safety.
Yes.
And I think if we don't advocate for our people, our citizens, our customers, whatever you want to call them, then we're falling a little bit short. So I agree. We're about on the 1 hour mark at this point. We don't have to stop, and we're not going to stop. We're not going to do a cold stop right now. But Tommy, let's go to anything on the current events side that you want to bring up.
I had taken a look. Loudoun County, Virginia, just released a report on the explosion that took the life of Trevor Brown back in February of this year. And the report listed contributing factors, which we expect to see in any LODD report. But they looked at risk assessment, event escalation, communications, resource allocation, and the command structure that was on scene, and some of the things that led to some issues. But this was the first time I've seen in a line of duty death report that the report highlighted factors that had a favorable impact on the incident. And I would highly recommend going in to take a look at the report. It's on firefighter close calls, and it's the Loudoun County incident that took the life of firefighter Trevor Brown. I was going through some other stuff, and I had the opportunity to look at the video from the train versus fire apparatus crash down in Florida.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's an oh my God. That's definitely oh my
God. Thankfully everybody came out of that relatively unscathed, but we can't do our jobs without some drama from day to day. And
I saw the beginning of that saga for like the first couple of days, but what has transpired since? What did they run the gates or not?
Yeah, they. What had happened is there was
yes
a
and no.
Yes and no. Okay.
There was a train coming by, a freight train, and they thought that when the freight train cleared the crossing, they thought the traffic was done with. They went around the gates and then were going through when the other train came up and smacked right into them. I try not to second guess some people's stuff, but 4 members were placed on administrative leave, and the chief posted the names of the 4 people
we saw
on
that.
Facebook. No. Obviously, the union had something to say about the names being released, and considered the chief's comments to be reckless and irresponsible. I don't know what all is going to be the end all to this incident. And Ron, I always heed your advice of let's keep our guns holstered so we can see what the report's going to look like.
Absolutely, keep your gun holstered, baby.
There was another item I saw that kind of piqued my interest, and Ron, a phone conversation we had a couple of days ago about Kristen Crowley, the chief over in Los Angeles City. She's now facing calls for her to resign. And the thing that surprised me is that's coming from within the department.
I haven't seen that. I didn't see that.
It both current and former fire officials are calling her to put her paper in. I was a little surprised because at least in the press conferences that I had seen, of course you never get the full story out of the media.
Right.
But the other perspective that I looked at, especially with all the burning in California, Billy G had posted up a link to an old YouTube video, and it was a movie that was actually made back in 1962 called Design for Disaster, and it talked about the Bel Air fires in LA, and it's like, have we not learned?
Well, we have not. The answer is we have not.
No, apparently not, because I think the highlights that Billy G pointed out was a blatantly predictive outcome to what was happening there. It was set up for disaster. And if you look at that YouTube video and compare it to what's going on in California right now, it's eye-opening. And apparently those lessons weren't learned.
You know what? And I mean, Tommy, you're a wooey guy, so I get it. Rob, we use the word wooey a lot on this show, but Tom's a wooey guy. Wooey, yeah. But from what I know of it, and it's not a lot, we stopped cleaning out the forest years ago. They used to be a regular cleaning program, get the dead stuff out and all that, and we stopped doing it. And those trees fall and they die and they lay there and they dry out, and it just adds to everything that could possibly go on. And we never fixed that. And I think that the cleaning of the forests and getting all that dead wood out, so to speak, I think that stopped during the Clinton administration, if I remember right.
There's been a couple different trains of thought on how to manage the wildland issue as to, do we let it burn and clean some of that stuff out? Do we suppress it and then have to worry about the problem later? And I don't pretend to be a forester, but there's people with a lot of initials behind their name that will tell you how you should be managing your forest.
Right.
And I think I don't have a good feel for what the current thinking is as to whether let it go if you're not running into interface problems or exposures and maybe
100 mile an hour winds.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The winds, the wind conditions, which is something that unless you're from there, you don't know. I'm not, won't pretend to be a forester or work in the WUI either. Like I know what the WUI is, like the wild urban interface. I get, wildland urban interface. I know it. But like I was reading an article about the California environment in the Santa Ana winds and the fact that there's another wind phenomenon that's happening at the same time. But that the Santa Anas are just a reality there. But the agriculture and the forestry there has adapted to that environment over time. So where like over here we would have some moisture in the undergrowth and in the trees and the brush there, because it's so dry and the wind sucks the moisture out, that over time the more creosote, more oils exist in that foliage and that vegetation that fuels the fire with the wind, with the heat. That unless you're there, unless you know that environment, I wouldn't necessarily be in a position to critique strategy, tactics, resources, allocation, whatever, until these fires are under control, until our firefighters are out of imminent danger with this incident. And let's have an honest critique and an after action report and develop those lessons learned. And like the calls to resign, questioning leader, that's the social media environment that we're in, but the fire is still burning and these guys are still exhausted. And until that's been addressed, let's put the fire.
I agree. A lot of the what I call the keyboard cowards, they went online and somebody posted something recently on. I'm a LinkedIn guy. I only do LinkedIn, and there was something on LinkedIn and it's something started up there and here we go again. Here we go again. We're brother against brother. It's like, keep your gun holster, keep your mouth shut. Wait a little while. Let's see how it all finishes out. And then take care of business after that. But try to do it in a civil way with a civil tongue, And there was a whole back and forth on LinkedIn about this recently, and I put in my 2 cents. I said, yeah, I've been a victim of the Brotherhood myself, And years ago we used to call each other, "Hey Rob, I saw what you wrote in Firehouse. Where the hell did you get that from? What are you, an idiot?" No, here's what I did. You're the idiot. And you duke it out, and you make each other convince each other what. And say, yeah, man, I'll see you at the next one. Or I'll catch you at FDIC. And that was it. Today, everybody wants blood. Everybody's out for blood. It's like, wait, what happened here? Because there's nobody else in the world other than us that's going to take care of us. Nobody's going to swoop in and say, oh, the fire service, you million guys are great. We'll take care of you. Nobody. So if we don't take care of each other internally, we're in trouble.
Well, I was going to tell the story at the Rob when I was back in Jersey in November. I wake up and turn the TV news on, and most of the northern part of New Jersey is under a red flag warning.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think who in New Jersey actually knows what a red flag warning is. I like to think that maybe climate change isn't doing a lot of damage, but it's doing enough to where you guys had no rain for like over a month, if I remember.
September. I remember I think it was September 28th, because we had a public event. We had the school had like an outdoor event, and it rained like all day, and then it didn't rain again until like the middle of November. So it was almost two months of no measurable rain. There was no rain.
I'm in the same band as Robbie is where I am in New York, and it rained. And you saw we had the Central Park was on fire, Prospect Park was on fire. We formed the brush fire task force. It was crazy. We had all kinds of stuff going on. There were guys walking up these little mountains and hills in northern Manhattan in the cloisters, wearing full bunker gear and all that stuff. And it was dry as a bone. And that Robbie, we take a look at some of the brush fires we had in New York and in New Jersey at that time, and it's got to be multiplied by 1 million out west. We only had no rain for 7 weeks. I mean, they don't get rain for 6 months at a time. And then everything else you said, and you said you're not a forester. Come on, we heard that whole dissertation. It was gorgeous, right? So
but they said the geographically, like the fire in Los Angeles is twice the size of the Chicago fire, right?
Well, they said it's 3 times the size of Manhattan. It's 3 Manhattans.
Yeah. So I mean, who on on a keyboard can truly relate to relate personal experience to? Well, when I had a fire twice the size of Chicago, this is how we handled it. That's just not. It's just not there, and it's too early. And it's what we do, and not just firefighters. It's when we don't have enough information for the whole picture. We fill the narrative in with what we know, what we've experienced, what we've read, and it's sensory overload with the social media and everything else. It's hard not to get sucked into the weeds.
But you gotta rise above it. But you have to.
Oh yeah.
Listen, I'm on, like I said, I'm on LinkedIn. I go in every night when I get home. I check my home email, and I open up LinkedIn, and there's a lot of fire stuff in there, a lot of postings and guys, and I know most of the people, and there's pretty neat stuff, And then once in a while, there's a thing, and I got my hand, and I'm going down toward the keyboard, and I go, nope, don't do it. I've held back 1,000 times, and so it's just. Discretion is the better part of valor. Let me tell you. So Tom, you got anything else current events? Because I want to start wrapping up the show here. It's been a quick hour and 15, man.
When you're ready, I got the list.
All right. Why don't you do the list, and then we're going to give Robbie the lightning round at the end of the show. Robbie, you're going to have to do the lightning round with us, okay?
Okay. I don't know what that is, but I'm ready. Whatever.
You're going to love it. You're going to love it. Go ahead, Tom.
So we last recorded on December 12th, and since then there's been 6 line of duty deaths. On December 12th, Richard Sanders from Winchester, Indiana, passed away from a heart attack he suffered at a fire scene. On December 14th, George Turley from Chattanooga, Tennessee, passed away from an unknown medical at the fire station. December 20th, Joseph Murphy from Lexington, Tennessee, suffered a heart attack after returning from a call. December 21st, Jeffrey Albanese from Brockton, Massachusetts, had a heart attack during a response. January 5th, Kevin Skinner from Irvine, California, passed away from an unknown medical at a fire scene. And on January 11th, Christopher Higgins from Gaithersburg, Maryland, also from an unknown medical at the scene. Again, keep the fallen and their families in your thoughts and prayers, and heed the lessons that they've left for us.
Thank you, Tommy. While we're on that subject, it's no longer it was a secret, but it's the planning is in full swing as usual. There will be the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial Weekend in May to honor the line of duty deaths, which occurred in 2024, and then in October we're having the full-blown Memorial Weekend in New York City. It'll be on Staten Island at the College of Staten Island to honor the 170 members of FDNY that have not been honored yet in Maryland, and we're going to catch up with those 170. These are post 9/11 World Trade Center illness deaths recognized as line of duty deaths. So we're bringing the entire Memorial Weekend to New York City in October. So there'll be more on that. You'll see it in the fire service websites and in the news. But we're planning that now. As you know, most of our listening audience got our regulars. I stepped down this past May as the IC in Emmitsburg, and I've been reactivated. Well, like they said in The Godfather Part 3, you try to get out and they drag you back in, right? But I've been reactivated to be the IC for the FDNY weekend, and we're working closely. We've got a great joint team between the NFFF staff and the FDNY people. We had a couple of meetings already, and myself and Tommy Richardson, the former chief of department, we were out in Staten Island 2 days ago and doing another round at the college, getting things straightened up over there. So stay tuned. There'll be more to come on that. All right. So lightning round. And I got this. I'd like to say it was my idea, but it's not. I did a podcast with the guy named Mike Cologne. He does a show called Mic'd Up in New Haven. Does a great job. He's really smart young man, and we made friends through other circles. And he had me on his show, and I talked about a little bit about my life, the way kind of, Rob, we allowed you to talk about your life tonight. So at the end, he did the lightning round. I said, "Oh, this is great. I'm going to steal that." So here you go, Rob. You ready?
Okay, go ahead.
What's your favorite color? Start with that, blue. Okay. Favorite firehouse meal?
Chili.
All right. Favorite type of restaurant to go out for dinner, like style?
Tacos. Yeah, tacos. Any place that makes a good fish taco.
Okay. Favorite activity for family fun night? You, Lenny, your son, and your daughter, 4 of you together.
Go to the beach. Go down the shore.
Down the shore. Okay. Hang out on the beach. Okay. Favorite snack?
Popcorn.
Okay. Favorite ice cream flavor?
Coffee.
I love this guy. All right. So last thing, if right now you could go back to young Rob Beattie when he was 20, what advice would you give him? He's just
shut up.
Shut up.
Shut up and listen.
That's great. Shut up. Just so you thanks. That was great, Rob. But you know when what's his name? When Cologne did it to me, and so what advice now would you give a young Ronnie Kanterman who was trying to start out in the fire service? To lose weight, you fat bastard. That was great. Well, Rob, we can't thank you enough for jumping up on the Backstep with us tonight. We had a great time. You have some great insights and just great thoughts on the work that you do for the fire department, for the fire service at large. And with you being a good union man and all that stuff, always enjoy talking and hanging with you. You know, like I said, you and I know each other on the side a little bit, and whenever we can, we have a nice phone call and catching up and all that stuff. And I want to wish you further luck in your career. I know you have more to go. You're a young guy still, and to your son Robbie, who's just starting out. You know, maybe you can give him that advice. Shut up, tell him.
I try, so I do. Now listen, listen. Both my kids, my family is everything, right? I've a fantastic partner, my wife Lynn. Both my kids, Rob and Larissa, my daughter. I am so lucky, and I think I'm most proud of the fact that I know that I'm lucky. They're just great kids, and they really make it easy for me. So
yeah, you do have I know your family a long time. You know, not that we hang out every weekend, but I know Lenny and I saw the kids get born and grow up and that kind of stuff. And and you got a nice little clan there. So
Thank you.
you guys are doing great. But thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
My honor. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Not at all.
Rob, good seeing you.
Good seeing you, Tom. A couple months.
Oh yeah.
So that's it for tonight on the Backstep with the Deputy Chief Bob Beattie from North Plainfield, New Jersey. And with that, we'll always, as we usually say, we'll be up on the Backstep again. Come and join us. Be safe, slow down, buckle up, eat right, eat light, use your head, stop for red. Get some exercise, wear your mask, wear your hood, wear your seatbelt. Don't be a wise guy. And when you say goodnight, hug your kids tight. You can give your wife a hug or your partner or your spouse or whoever you hang with. Make sure you tell them you love them. Okay, it's important. With that, good night, everybody.
Stay safe, everybody.
Firefighters know that every second counts during the golden hour. That is why first responders trust AMCUS for simple, rugged, reliable